There are some things that nobody says on the internet, not because they're ignorant of these facts, but because they have difficulty being 100% honest with the audience and being 100% honest with themselves. Let's go over the 4 things, the 4 secrets that are hidden in plain sight for how you, yes you, can learn any language at any level as rapidly as possible. And I'm not going to give you any vague bullshit. I'm going to tell you how it really works. All kind of coaches who are selling you ebooks and have hit videos here on YouTube about this, they'll say some really vague and encouraging things about motivation. Well, you know, the most important thing is your motivation. Let's get real, people. What do you mean by motivation? The single most powerful motivating force for human nature is fear. Whether you want to learn a language or whether you want to increase your physical strength from lifting 200 pounds to 240 pounds, from 240 pounds to 270 pounds, when you go to the gym, nothing motivates you more powerfully than fear. Fear for your life, fear you're going to get beaten up in the streets, fear of whatever it is, organized crime, someone's out to get you. No, you know what? And even if you talk to competitive athletes, the desire to win is not that powerful. The desire to earn money, the desire to have fame, the desire to be a champion, none of that stuff compares to fear for your life, okay? You will wake up and study Cambodian at 6 a.m. so goddamn hard if it's because you're terrified that you have to walk around in the streets of Cambodia and meet people face to face speaking in Cambodian to try to find a landlord and try to make sure your landlord isn't going to rip you off and deal with petty street criminals and all this stuff. Look, this is 2019. In some ways, Cambodia is less rough than it used to be 10 and 20 years ago. And you know what? In some ways, it's rougher. In some ways, Cambodia is sketchier. And frankly, if you want to be safe in Cambodia, you probably need to speak 3 languages. Just keeping it real, I was never held at gunpoint in Cambodia or Laos. I know a lot of people who were held at gunpoint in Cambodia and Laos. And I know one guy who was held at gunpoint with machine guns and managed to talk his way out of it, too. The gift of the gab, man. If you are afraid that you're living in a corrupt dictatorship where the police will take you in and interrogate you and charge you with crimes unfairly and hold you hostage, like try to extort money from other people by holding you hostage or try to extort money out of you, and I have been in that situation. I have talked my way out of that when I was living in the capital city of Laos. Didn't happen to me in Cambodia. It motivates you in a way no YouTube video possibly can, in a way that no ebook ever possibly can. Okay, so that's point 1. Fear. Live in fear. Okay, point 2. A lot of people are going to tell you BS about watching TV, watching movies. And others are going to tell you BS about flirt with girls, flirt with boys, dating, love, romance. Okay? The relationship you can ever possibly have with a Thai bar girl or a Japanese karaoke singer or your dreamy, college friend or whoever it is you meet, any kind of romantic relationship you can possibly have pales in comparison to the relationship you would have in terms of its value in language learning with a grandparent or some older person acting in the caring but authoritarian role of a grandparent, okay? Anyone you seduce, anyone who falls in love with you, they're not going to correct you, cajole you, hold you to a higher standard, and help you the way a grandparent will, okay? And why do I compare these 3 things, okay? People think they're just going to, go to Japan, go to Thailand, go to Russia, get a girlfriend, and that's going to solve their problem. And again, doesn't matter. Switch the genders, straight, gay, doesn't matter. A romantic relationship is really looking for the solution in the wrong places, precisely because that person is going to love you in a certain way and treat you as an equal in a certain way. There's all these complexities. And you know what? they may not treat you as an equal. You may be the boss. You may be the dominant one in a sexual relationship, and that's even worse for language learning, right? And in a sense, it's like the next step into absurdity to think that watching entertainment, like films that are just supposed to make you feel happy or make you laugh or present you with a sequence of explosions that titillate you and thrill you, to think that that is what language education is about is really a profoundly stupid misapprehension of how language education works, okay? So point one was fear. Point two was you're looking under the wrong rock if you're looking for romance or you're looking for entertainment, when what you should be looking for instead is somebody like a grandparent, someone who's going to care for you, care about you, hold you to a higher standard, look disapprovingly at your handwriting, tell you that you're lisping ever so slightly, you're pronouncing something ever so slightly wrong. I forget points 3 and points 4. I could edit them in later or not.
2,000 years later.
Point 3 out of 4 is put yourself in a good sociolinguistic context. And nobody wants to talk about this one because it's so hard to do right planning things out in advance, and it's so hard to cope with after the fact if you somehow did it wrong, if you found yourself in a bad situation. There is a profound world of difference. We're throwing aside the academic jargon here. There is a profound difference between being in a context where people are apprehensive and suspicious of you as a foreigner learning their language, and where people are actually warm and giving and generous and helpful, where they're happy and gratified that you're a foreigner learning their language, okay? I have been in situations where I was the white guy who spoke Laotian suspiciously well and was studying Buddhism and had suspiciously good handwriting also. My handwriting in Laotian was great. I could write the ancient language of Buddhism, Pali. And where people dead serious regarded me as an American spy. They regarded me as working for the CIA. And I remember it even got back to like, oh yeah, he says he's Canadian. People who work for the CIA always say they're Canadian. Like it was more suspicious that I said I wasn't American, that I was a Canadian citizen. Yeah, they have fake passports all the time, those guys, right? Where people are like, why are you learning our language? Why are you out here in these tribal villages by the border? Why are you doing this humanitarian work? There must be something going on. And those people knew I wasn't there to get laid. I wasn't there for my sex life. I wasn't the usual kind of aging tourist in Southeast Asia. You seem highly motivated to learn our language. That's a bad thing. That is a bad sociolinguistic context. Being in a context where people, they don't feel comfortable or positively motivated to explain their own language to you. But how do you put yourself in a good sociolinguistic context? How do you put yourself in a context where more people behave towards you in that grandmotherly way that I've already described, where people are really, positively reinforcing what you're learning and challenging you and practicing the language with you in a way that's receptive and positive, and hopefully not flattering you, but they're really, helping you on the road to fluency. How do you put it? That's the answer to that question. You can't find in any PDF, and you can't get it from this YouTube video. It's really, really hard. And two different places in the same country, like two different places in Laos, totally different situation. I'm sure two different places in Mongolia, totally different situation. You can be in a situation where people are really apprehensive of outsiders, and you can be in a situation where people are really positively inclined towards a foreigner learning their language with whatever set of motivations. And I think historically, one of the big reasons nobody dealt with this is exactly that it gets into religion and politics. Let's face it, the history of translation, the history of almost every obscure form of language research has been dominated by religious missionaries. Christians translating in the Bible, occasionally Muslims translating the Quran, whatever it is, religious fanatics have historically dominated advanced linguistic studies, learning, teaching. If you just get into who wrote the dictionaries, who published the materials to these languages, it's them, and then they hand the torch to, colonial schools, like French Empire and British Empire schools set up in those areas that, again, were very often staffed by religious fundamentalists, by priests and what have you. All right, so nobody wants to talk about that, okay? But it's crucial, a good sociolinguistic context. And finally, economic desperation, right? Nobody is really going to be honest with you about this either. I think that economic desperation is a very distant fourth place compared to all the rest of these. Economic desperation will never really work for you in the same way that fear does. and the other points I've mentioned. But yeah, I mean, it's really funny. Sorry, Jeremy Corbyn just lost the elections, and I said, look, I don't assume that rich people are bad people just because they're rich. But it is funny in Western culture. There are all these kind of defects of character that we associate with people who are born rich, people who don't have to work hard, people who are motivated in this way. And there's no doubt that, I mean, economic desperation in every way, whether it's just that it makes you really scrutinize what you're buying at the grocery store. It may sound like BS, but it's not. That you're not just like, oh, fine, I'll just get some bananas. It's like, no, I was in Taiwan and I took the time to ask in Chinese, which one of these bananas costs less per kilogram. Because one had the price by kilogram and the other had the price per banana. You know what I mean? And I went up and I had this conversation in Chinese with a woman and we figured out which was the better deal, okay? If you got money to burn, you don't have that conversation, right? In every way, whether it's job applications and the interactions that leads you into, whether it's finding a place to sleep, the way in which sleeping in a cheaper place forces you into the company of other poor people and mixing with those people, the kind of economic interactions and what have you. Put it this way. Think about how different your experience is staying in a 5-star hotel as opposed to staying in like a hostel in a dorm, staying in a student dorm, or staying in a cheap youth hostel, the poorer you are, and it's not just poverty. It's that you're struggling against that poverty. It's that you're going out and making that effort. Your own economic desperation could also drive you towards learning a language much better than others would. And I think we see this again and again, where even within the same PhD program, the kids who are in the idle rich, and again, maybe they can afford to pay a translator. It's things as simple as that. They have other ways to work around the problem because of their money. They never seem to get ahead the same way as someone who's poor, and specifically poor and motivated to struggle.
I mean, really, people like to disrespect my crew, but the fact is that you know my name and I don't know you.